Buffalo is at a crossroads. A city facing financial fallout from a massive budget gap, plus demands for safer streets, better services, and more jobs. Now, for the first time in 20 years, Byron Brown's name is not on the mayoral ballot. Hoping to succeed him, the acting mayor, the state senator, the common council member, the former fire commissioner, and the community activist. 5 men asking for your vote, and you'll hear directly from each of them tonight. Live from the Kaz in South Buffalo, this is the Democratic mayoral primary debate from 7 News. And good evening, everyone. We're glad you're here with us exactly 1 week out from the primary election of 2025. I'm Michael Wooten, 7 News senior reporter and anchor of our 5:30 newscast. I'll be moderating today's debate. We want to welcome here on stage the candidates, also our panelists, the crowd here at the Kaz in South Buffalo, and of course, all of you at home who are watching. I want to start here by just going over some of the rules which all of the campaigns have agreed to. There will be no opening statements tonight. We're going to get right into the questions. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer. There will be 30 seconds for a rebuttal if you directly reference one of the other men on stage. There will not be rebuttals to rebuttals. We want to try to get through as many questions as we can. Halfway, we're going to take questions from Facebook, from our audience at home, or those of you here in the crowd. You can go to our WKBW Facebook page and submit those questions now. Eileen Buckley will be asking those. And then at the end, we will have, by the way, 30 seconds for those responses. And then at the end, we'll have a 1 minute time frame for each candidate to make a closing statement. We want to thank the League of Women Voters for serving as our timekeepers tonight, and also for drawing names that determined your placement on the stage, and also the determination of which candidate will go first and last in closing statements. We also want to thank the Kaz here in South Buffalo. What an amazing venue. So we hope the audience will keep cheering and jeering to a minimum, but right now we would like to thank the candidates for being here and the Kaz for hosting us here tonight. And with that, we're going to start with our first topic tonight. This is not going to be a surprise to any of you up here, the Buffalo finances. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin Sondale with the Buffalo News.
Good evening, everybody. The city of Buffalo has for years passed budgets that include speculative, inflated revenues and under-budgeted expenses, with the previous mayor, with council approval, using reserves and one-time revenues to plug end-of-year budget holes. The most direct path to raising revenues is raising property taxes. If the city cannot get its books in order soon, there's a chance that the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority will again enter a control period in which it will have final say over city spending. Mr. Whitfield, you often cite your experience running the fire department budgets and negotiating with the union for contracts as skills that would translate well to the mayor's office. What, outside of managing overtime and negotiating budgets, contracts, would you prioritize in the city budget? And how would you manage tax increases in the face of the structural deficit issues that have been a hallmark of city budgets in recent years?
Thank you. Well, I believe, first of all, we have to, again, as I've said, I'm the first candidate to ask for an outside audit to understand where we are in terms of our finances. We really don't know where we are in terms of our deficit. We have to understand that. Not only do we have to understand the amount of the deficit, but we also have to understand how we got there. And that question is not being asked. And so in order to fix this, in order to get out of this debacle, these are questions we have to ask. These are things that we have to go through. In terms of the taxes, I don't believe that it's fair to ask people on the Lower West Side or on the East Side to pay taxes, owners' taxes, when they're not getting requisite services. And so I think I would be interested in a fair tax system, but instead of taxing our way out of it, I believe we have to create new revenue streams. And we're an international city on an international border. It should not be too hard to do.
Thank you, sir. Justin?
Mr. Wyatt, one place you sought reductions in spending this year and in previous years is in public safety overtime, particularly with police and fire. But department heads cite contractual issues, and public safety concerns as reasons that overtime consistently goes far over budget in those departments. What do you see as a viable path to getting overtime closer to budgeted amounts, and what other measures would you implement as mayor to bring spending and revenue in line across the city budget?
Well, number one, that the overtime, that contractual overtime is not as significant as what we've been told. The contractual overtime is about $4 million. We're still $7 to $8 million over. And so we need to have a manager that has their finger on the pulse, know what the issues are. Because at the end of the day, it seems like, if we're not managing the overtime, it's just spent ad nauseum, however you want. You have to have someone that has a finger on the pulse. We cannot continue to pay this type of overtime when fires are down, crime is down. I got to understand that number, and that number has not been explained to us. I know that the acting mayor has worked very closely with the unions, and so they want to continue that type of mentality, but we can't because it's a deficit. It's detrimental to the taxpayers of the city of Buffalo. We cannot continue to give these 8% tax increases, 12%. It's just ad nauseum that we're increasing taxes without really doing our belt tightening, and that's the important part.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Scanlon, in your time as acting mayor, you have been able to cut some spending and have passed a budget that sells off some city assets, acknowledging that your plan includes continued revenue from your proposed parking authority to stem the tide while the city gets its finances in order. Please describe what you plan to do in subsequent budgets to bring spending and revenue in line, give city residents more predictability and stability in their taxes, and prevent further fiscal crises.
Yeah, that's not the only thing we've done. We've set a plan for fiscal solvency for the city of Buffalo. And if you look at our plan, this budget, and the things we tried to do leading up to it, we've been very successful. We set a plan, we worked that plan, we've been successful. A lot of criticism came our way from pieces of legislation that we wanted to pass. A lot of people stepped in the way, tried to stop those pieces of legislation, but we were able to pass them and we'll bring millions of dollars into the fold for the city of Buffalo this year, while recurring revenues will maintain. In addition to that, there was criticism whether we'd receive casino funds, but we worked with the state. We've secured those. We now have those funds in place for the year, and we'll continue to do that. But moving forward, we've got to work with our partners in government. Our New York State AIM payment has not increased since 2012, the permanent AIM. We need an increase in that. We need to talk to the county about our sales tax agreement. We do not receive our proper sales tax share from New York, from Erie County. The city of Buffalo is a third of the county population. We receive significantly less when it comes to sales tax based on that percentage. But we'll continue to look at additional revenues to bring into the fold, and we'll rectify the budget over the course of the next couple of years.
Thank you, sir. Justin?
Mr. Tyson-Thompson, you have a very impressive resume and experience in government through your time in Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Stokes' office. However, you do not have experience creating or managing large budgets. You have also suggested that there could be a sliding property tax scale within the city. How will you create balance without raising taxes to points that will cripple typical taxpayers while also achieving those equity goals?
Could you restate just the middle? You kind of fumbled a little bit.
Sure.
So now you said to balance the budget without having the burden completely on the taxpayer?
Right. So with the sliding tax scale, how would you achieve that without, on the upper end of that tax scale, having very large taxes?
A systematic and structural deficit of this size is not going to go away by putting that burden on the everyday taxpayer. The city of Buffalo is already one of the most economically challenged cities in the country. So the idea that people who are already being crushed financially are going to somehow be able to be taxed even more is insane. The way that we do it is to do it equitably, making sure that we balance proper tax increase, but we're also expanding the tax base by bringing new industries to Buffalo, both public and private. We have to make sure people are coming to Buffalo to do business, having a thriving culture here in the city of Buffalo that makes tourism pops. All these things have to be done. But currently, the status of how it's been going on with these career politicians hasn't been enough. We haven't seen much movement on the needle. We've had a declining population over the last 70 years, our first modest uptick. And because of that, we've seen a housing crisis now. We've seen crumbling infrastructure, lead paint is still the issue. We have to get a real hold on it. And it takes a leader who kind of knows the nuanced ability to actually implement policy correctly.
Thank you. Justin?
And Mr. Ryan, you have proposed a deficit bonding plan that would also borrow money to stem the tide, to buy time to get spending and revenue in line. What would you do in subsequent years to close those structural deficits? And how would you handle tax increases in the coming years to that end?
So Buffalo doesn't know what its deficit is this year. It doesn't know what it is next year. So we need to bring the state comptroller in to do a complete review of our books. And if Buffalo is a business, it would be a $600 million company. And if a company got in this problems, they wouldn't do a garage sale. They wouldn't sell their assets like parking ramps. They would restructure the debt. It's not just my opinion. County Executive Poloncarz agrees. Former Budget Director Ken Crulley agrees. The Fiscal Stability Authority agrees. So we need to restructure that debt. That's the only way to prevent catastrophic tax increases on our low-income homeowners. So you got to bite the bullet. You got to acknowledge that we dug ourselves into an awful, deep hole. The only way we're going to get out is 1 year at a time. And the only way we're going to be able to get away with doing moderate tax increases is by restructuring our debt, paying at a lower interest rate over many years.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to turn to our second topic of the night, which is development and jobs. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Taylor Epps.
Good evening, gentlemen. Like many urban areas in America, the pandemic stalled Buffalo's progress in development. There are now concerns that the renaissance that was happening in Buffalo is rusting. About 20,000 fewer employees are driving into downtown each day, with many working remotely at least a few days per week. At the same time, the boom in housing has come to a halt. We've also heard from neighbors on Buffalo's east side who feel like they've been completely left out of Buffalo's development plans. Mr. Wyatt, we start with you. You've been on the Common Council for 12 years, through the years when downtown Buffalo went through a rebirth. The pandemic stopped that momentum. What is your plan to bring it back?
Well, it certainly isn't selling parking ramps and bed taxes and event fees. We have a high rate of vacancy. And so we have to have these conversations with some of the businesses downtown. How do we do that? What do we do? How can we utilize some of these vacant buildings? We have a homeless problem. We have a vacant building in the Main Place Mall that could be utilized to help those homeless. And so it's really having conversations with people and having a real plan to address those issues. Right now, we just keep talking and putting ourselves in a deeper hole. All those event fees and things like that, that does not attract people downtown. So right now, it seems as though downtown is on its own, it's on life support, and we continue to do things to even continue the death of downtown. So I think that, again, having conversations with those business people downtown, with some of the residents, and looking at a real viable plan to revitalize downtown, and it certainly isn't creating additional fees and fines for folks.
Thank you. Taylor?
Mr. Scanlon, you've talked about ongoing efforts in the city to help small businesses and to bring more workers downtown. But it seems as though at 5 o'clock, we often see that rush of cars flee the city and go back to the suburbs. How will we get people to live downtown and attract people to visit as well as work?
Yeah, well, we're not just talking about assisting small business and creating jobs, we're doing it. You know, last week or 10 days ago, I announced the Small Business Advisory Cabinet, bringing people into the fold to talk to them. One thing we haven't done enough is talk to our residents, talk to our business owners, creating a relationship there so we know what's going on with their businesses, the challenges they're facing, things that are going well, so we can build upon them. Also launched a small business grant program that's going to help businesses throughout the city of Buffalo with 50 or fewer employees. You know, and when it's talking about things going on in and around downtown, and conversations that have to happen, we've had those conversations with the large employers. They're starting to require people to come back downtown. We required people to come back down. Because of that and the other things we're doing, investing in our infrastructure, you see other people coming downtown. You see Ingram Micro come in downtown with 1,200 employees. You see parking usage increasing. You see more people in downtown on a regular basis. But we'll continue to work with organizations in and around downtown to make sure that there are things happening after work. So people who do have the option of coming into work or staying home are motivated to come in, because after work, there might be something going on, a concert or something else, and it gives them the reason to be down there after work.
Thank you. Taylor?
Mr. Tyson Thompson, you grew up on the east side, and you've said that plays a role in why you're running for mayor. What's your plan to make sure that the east side community is not left behind in the development plans for the city?
Yeah, I think so much when we talk about revitalization, we always pinpoint downtown Buffalo, but we forget there's other quadrants and communities in the city of Buffalo that needs to be addressed. By and large, you know, there's a lot of people in a lot of communities struggling in the city of Buffalo. One of the reasons why I ran Buffalo for this northern city in this liberal state is one of the most segregated in the country, and it's literally killing our people. One of my biggest catalysts for running was because of the 5/14 terrorist attack. You know, it's literally killing us. We live in a place where a food desert exists, where people can't get access to just quality life. We have to change that. We have to be serious about how we approach it. You know, last debate, we seen people up on stage arguing for power, but not for progress, arguing about who's getting donations from where, but not attacking the real issues at hand. That was a real embarrassment to the leadership of the city of Buffalo. We need to make sure that we're addressing our systemic and structural issues for every quadrant of the city, east and west, north and south. Only then will we have a viable city and economy that's worthwhile.
Thank you. Taylor?
Mr. Ryan, I also want to talk to you about development on Buffalo's east side. Last month, we spoke to neighbors who live on Riley, right near the tops on Jefferson Avenue. Linda Poole has lived there for 30 years and says she hasn't seen any change in her neighborhood as of late. What's your plan to bring change to Buffalo's east side and other neighborhoods?
First, we had to do the basics. The east side streets are well behind the rest of the city. They've been ignored. They've been disinvested. Potholes everywhere. So we got to fix the potholes. We have to plow the streets. I have a 3-point housing plan that's in year 2 from New York State, funded at $170 million. The first part of that is to help seniors who own doubles to get their empty units back online to be quality, affordable housing, put some money into seniors' pockets and give people a place to live. We think there's 4,000 empty units. We also have a program called Block by Block, where we're going to rebuild new houses in the vacant lots throughout the city of Buffalo. But at the same time we're doing that, we have to have a focus on Jefferson, Fillmore, and Ontario Street. No one's going to come and operate a business on those commercial thoroughfares unless the neighborhoods leading into those are full of people and not vacant. So I have a comprehensive neighborhood-based development plan, and it's going to move Buffalo forward.
Thank you. Taylor?
Mr. Whitfield, you've said that the decisions being made to develop Buffalo have been short-sighted. What's your long-term plan to bring vibrancy back to neighborhoods in Buffalo, including downtown and Buffalo's east side?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that all of this talk about development on the east side, the candidates on this stage were here when the stadium was put in Orchard Park. What did they do? That's the single most transformative thing that would have happened to the east side and to the city of Buffalo, and there was silence. Silence. And that's unacceptable. That's a lack of leadership. That's what that is. So, you know, that's gone now. Now we have the 33 project. The same people are doing the same thing. Nobody wants to put their careers or, you know, whatever it is on the line to do what's best for this community. And we have a lack of leadership. That is the problem. That is my plan, to make these things a priority, to make the people of Buffalo the priority, not these other things that they're talking about. Because when you listen to them, they're not talking about people. They're talking about all these, inanimate things, but they're not talking about the people. The people are damaged, and you can build all the buildings you want. It does no good to put broken people into new buildings. So let's invest in the people. Let's do that. Let's take care of our children. Let's do that.
Thank you, sir.
Let's put those things first instead of talking about downtown all the time.
All right, there was no direct reference to anyone, so we're not gonna do a rebuttal on that. Our next topic tonight is on public safety, and for that we turn it to 7 News political analyst Bob McCarthy.
Mr. Scanlon, let's start with you. Last month, Governor Hochul's office touted a 6% decline in Buffalo shootings, as well as significant decreases in other crime statistics. What are your thoughts about this positive trend? Why are your public safety proposals better than your opponents? And then something that you're very familiar with, what's your opinion of former Commissioner Gamaglia's departure from the Buffalo Police Department?
Well, first and foremost, I've said this time again, one of my very top priorities is public safety. But we get there through working with the community. Last week, we launched the Foot Patrol Integration Unit within the police department. These are men and women in the police department that have volunteered to be part of an organization to go out, walk our commercial corridors, walk our neighborhoods, to bridge the gap between community and policing. The other thing they're doing is providing a survey to every home in the city of Buffalo. For years, we've heard from residents, they want to say in how they're policed. This is how we're going to do that. We'll hear what they've seen in policing in the city of Buffalo and what they want to see moving forward. So we'll continue to work with our neighborhood business owners, our residents, to make sure that they're comfortable and those relationships have been built in our department. When it comes to the Commissioner Gramaglia, I think he had a tremendous career with the Buffalo Police Department. But when it comes to policing and in neighborhoods, there's slight difference of opinions, which led to his departure ultimately. But to take nothing away from the great career he's had, 20, 30 years of commitment and dedication to the city of Buffalo.
you, sir.
That's not an easy job to do, and I applaud him for the time that he's put into the department.
Bob?
Mr. Tyson Thompson, your experience in these matters is limited. Why should voters consider you to oversee public safety in New York State's second largest city?
You said my experience with law enforcement?
I did say that, yeah.
is limited? Wow, that's crazy. Born and raised in the city of Buffalo in the east side, you don't grow up in the east side of Buffalo having interactions with law enforcement. I've been on both sides. I have family members who serve in the law, people who have been burdened by the enforcement of it. I have a degree in criminal justice. I've went to some of the greatest institutions, learned from the greatest minds about public safety. Not only that, a community organizer. I've been working for nonprofits. So my entire life it has been about public service. So, when I speak, I'm speaking from a point of expertise and lived experience. So how I would address, public safety is very important. It's about leading with compassion and empathy. It's also about making sure that we're attacking and addressing systemic issues that exacerbates even and perpetuates injustices in our community. So as mayor, you have to make sure that you're dealing with both supporting, but also critiquing with love the people who hold the power of enforcement, but also making sure that citizens feel seen and heard. That's how you address public safety.
Thank you, sir. Bob?
Mr. Ryan, would Joseph Gramalia have a role in your administration? In your opinion of his departure?
Yeah, I've worked closely with Joseph Gramalia over the years. When we were bringing money into the city of Buffalo from New York State, he was the main point of contact. A lot of New York State money came into the Buffalo Police Department for training in computers, and he helped me work on my public safety platform. Right now, he's the president of a national organization called the National Chief of Police. And unfortunately, he's no longer a chief of police because he was terminated, but he still remains in that role. And I consider him to be an expert in the field of public safety. And when I'm victorious in this race, I'd be honored if Commissioner Gramalia served on the transition team to help to continue his efforts to modernize the Buffalo Police Force. We have a lot of work to do with the Buffalo Police Department to make sure we have accountability, transparency, good training for our officers. Lots to do in the Buffalo Police Department.
Thank you, sir. Bob?
And Mr. Whitfield, you certainly are a public safety veteran. What would be your top public safety priority?
My first priority would be to be transparent, to make sure that public safety is done in such a way that the community has access to it, can see it. One of the problems with public safety is that it's a closed shop and it is not invited the public in, has not invited the community in. And so I'm for community response teams, police oversight and all of those things. I have 40 years of experience in public safety. I've worked across this country. I believe I am the expert on public safety on this stage. And so, it's nice to have people walking the streets, police officers. In some communities, that exacerbates a pre-existing problem with the police. We have to recognize that. That's not the plan for every community. And the other side of that is that it would be much better if those people actually lived in the community. So I would demand that every city worker, I would want every city worker to live in the city of Buffalo. Period. Every firefighter hired in the Buffalo Fire Department has to live in the city of Buffalo.
Thank you. Bob?
And
Final
Mr.
question?
Wyatt, your perspective as a council member for many years, what has that taught you about your priorities for public safety? What public safety priorities have you formed as a result of your experience in the council?
Well, one of the very first ones we need to address is a civilian review board. Our state AG stated that we should have a civilian review board because police should not be policing police. And you've seen a number of incidents in which it seems to continue, that the police is policing themselves. The sheriff's issue, the issue with the ATV, these are things that are long-standing, that have been a constant issue. The Buffalo News did a report that the police investigations continue to always, for the most part, 80 to 90% of the time, in favor of the police officer. So with the issues across the country regarding police misconduct, there's no way that you can tell me little old Buffalo has no problems. We have a lot of problems. And I think a civilian review board, having the community involved and engaged. Again, I'm not against police. I'm not for police. I'm for the people addressing the issues that affect them in their community. And a civilian review board would definitely be a step in the right direction.
Thank you, sir. All right, to our audience, we hope that you've been engaging on Facebook and sending in some of your questions. I'm going to turn it over to Eileen Buckley for a question for each of the candidates. Again, just 30 seconds for these responses, please.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's been very busy on Facebook. I'm trying to make sure that I get to everyone. It's a little difficult. I'm going to start out with a couple of the first questions that came in, and one of them involves the menthol flavored tobacco products. This has been an ongoing issue. It says particularly their disproportionate impact on Black residents in the city. And considering that other municipalities in the state have already banned the sale of a variety of flavors of tobacco products, what strategies or policies would you implement? And if mayor, what would you support? Would you like to see a ban on this? And we will begin with Mr. Tyson Thompson.
Yeah, that's a very great question. It'll be 10 years in August. My father passed away from lung cancer from being a lifelong smoker. And, it's one of the reasons why I joined the American Cancer Society to be a public advocate was because of cigarette smoking. Cancer is one of those things that it's unbiased. It doesn't care who you are, what your background, socioeconomics, race, or religion. It kills everybody. I mean, it goes for everybody. So making sure that we have, that's a minute?
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. Oh, I was
You can finish the sentence.
Yeah, but you just have to make sure that we're approaching it holistically. We have to make sure that we're also marketing and teaching our communities
Thank you,
that
sir.
smoking is not helpful at all.
All right, Eileen?
Yeah.
Do we really want a city under control board for another 10 years? How do you restructure debt without a control board? And what has State Senator Ryan done for the city of Buffalo while in the Senate? So Mr. Ryan, this question starts with you.
Sure. I brought a lot of money into the city of Buffalo, whether it was the last 2 years, AIM increases, record aid for the Buffalo School District, money for the Buffalo Sewer Authority and the Water Department to stop dumping into the Great Lakes, into Niagara River. And we need to have our own discipline. We don't need a control board if we have a government that's accountable, is fiscally responsible, and knows how to do the financial math. The last thing we need is a control board, but the last time the city really had its budget balanced was when there was a control board.
All right, Eileen?
What is being done to help or house the high number of homeless that are in downtown Buffalo? And this question goes to Mr. Whitfield.
Not enough, obviously. We wouldn't have that number of homeless persons. Homeless people have been, especially federally, have been criminalized now. Resources have been removed and taken away. It's so much more important now that we locally are empathetic and are caring about those that are homeless. So, there's a number of issues. It's mental health, it's substance abuse, it's a number of issues. It's also the high price of rent in our community. People cannot afford the rents. They're being escalated.
Thank you, sir.
So, good cause eviction.
Thank you. Eileen?
Another question in from the Facebook post. It's departments in City Hall that need leadership change. What is the one department that you would change for leadership and why? And that question will go to Mr. Wyatt.
The department that needs the most help is the permits and inspections. That's one of the issues that my office is constantly inundated with: permits and inspections, the lack of inspectors, the lack of proactive rental inspections. Those are real issues that, again, the city has some control over and should make it a priority. The fact that we don't have measurements and goals and objectives is really one of the biggest problems, and we need leadership in there to make that happen for the residents of the city of Buffalo.
Thank you, sir. Eileen?
There's some questions that came in earlier today on Instagram, and I want to give those a little bit of time here. They specifically involved the Buffalo Animal Shelter. They want to know how many kennels will be in the new animal shelter, and they're also asking really right now what's actually being done. Mr. Scanlon?
Yeah. So last week we announced the location of a new animal shelter. It's a facility that's going to be nearly 2.5 times the size of the current one. But as far as the number of kennels, we don't have that explicitly laid out. We're going to continue to work with our partners in that environment, in that industry, to make sure that we are putting together an animal shelter that's most beneficial to the animals, the volunteers, the workers, and moving forward, it'll be the best location.
Thank you. And thank you to the viewers who submitted those questions. We're now going to turn to our fourth topic of the night, one that we probably don't talk about enough, affordable housing in the city of Buffalo. And for that, we go back to Justin from the Buffalo News.
In 2016, the city commissioned a report that confirmed previous research showing extreme disparities in quality housing availability and affordability, with the city's poorest neighborhoods offering fewer safe and livable housing options. Since then, housing prices have increased and the percentage of renters has also increased, building on what many advocates were already considering a crisis at the time that report was issued and mirroring nationwide trends. Mr. Ryan, you have made housing a priority in your time in the state legislature and have put forth a good neighborhood plan that you partially described earlier that includes grants for homeowners looking to get out-of-use apartments back into commission and the promotion of infill projects to create more housing. How would you fund such efforts as an executive considering the city's precarious fiscal position?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that the state government funds a lot of housing, but you have to have a city administration asking for the money and coming up with a plan. The city of Albany recently got $300 million from New York State to redevelop a part of its city. It took them 3 years and they came year in and year out. Each year the plan got better and they got the money. And when I'm mayor, we're going to put plans together to make it so we can continue to fund new housing in Buffalo. Our big mistake in Buffalo is we knocked down way too many houses. City Hall was crowing that they're knocking down 5,000 houses in 5 years. But when our population started going up, the city never stopped their demolition policy. As soon as we knew population was going up, they had to stop the demo policy, but they didn't. My plan is called the City of Good Neighborhoods, and it'll put up new houses. It'll give safe, affordable units and doubles owned by seniors, and it'll keep poor people in their homes who are now getting evicted for a small amount of money.
Justin?
Mr. Whitfield, you have said that you would do more to create partnerships with private developers to increase quality housing options in an effort to cool the steep increases in rent city residents have experienced in recent years. Given the city's fiscal crisis, how would you fund such incentives? What can be done from a city level to keep rents in check while also increasing the city tax base?
Oh, I mentioned previously good cause eviction. Some of those policies should be implemented in the city of Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse. Other cities have that. We should implement those things immediately. Would work with the council to do that. But also, we have to take care of the properties that are already here. They're dilapidated. We have lead issues. We have all of these health and safety issues within the properties here. So the city has to do a better job of inspections and holding people accountable for that. Also, you have to use the resources we have creatively. I did that with the Buffalo Fire Department. We did in-home inspections, and we can train people who are already on the job to do some of these things. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I think we have to be very creative in how we use the resources that we already have.
Thank you. Justin?
Mr. Wyatt, your university district contains some of the city's poorest zip codes in which some of these issues are most acute. What can you do as a mayor to try to promote more quality, affordable housing while also increasing tax base the city so desperately needs right now?
Excuse me, what was the last part of the question?
What can you do to increase the tax base the city so desperately needs right now?
Number one, we keep talking about increasing tax base, and which I understand, but some of it, we got to cut expenses. We can't keep sitting around talking about let's increase revenues when we know that's going to be a difficult challenge over time. We have to cut expenses. In my district, we've had a lot of conversation. We have some infill housing that we started 2 years ago. And again, they had a meeting about this and I wasn't invited, but it was something I worked on 2 years ago as far as the infill housing. And that's an area that we can work on. We need to have permits and inspections do a better job of addressing the issues as far as the housing that we currently have and holding landlords accountable, especially those out-of-town landlords. So out-of-town landlords are a big problem, and we've done nothing to address it. We just continue to let them go on and do what they do. Recently, we have a dwelling in the Cleve Hill Plaza that we consistently have a problem with, and nobody's addressing the issue. So again, I think we have to be more proactive in addressing those issues with our permits and inspections problem, and then be a little bit more aggressive in using those lots for infill housing.
Thank you, sir. Justin?
Mr. Scanlon, your campaign has taken donations as a councilman and now as a mayoral candidate from developers who have said they will help alleviate these issues in exchange for tax breaks on their projects, but the problems continue to mount. You have also worked with the county to create infill projects, some of the city's neighborhoods most in need, to increase more housing options. What will you do as mayor to ensure that housing options continue to grow for the city's most vulnerable and middle-class people?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, and you, as part of your question to Commissioner Whitfield, as well as those relationships and building those relations with the people who actually build the homes, whether it's private sector, nonprofit sector, the Habitats of the world, things like that. We'll continue to build those partnerships. Like you mentioned, we have a tremendous program going right now with the county and the land bank, building 110 homes over the next year and a half here in the city of Buffalo, the vast majority of them exclusively on the east side of Buffalo. But when it comes to housing plans, we have a housing plans could be released in the next couple of weeks. Again, not something we wanted to rush. We wanted to get it right. And you'll see the plan coming out in the very near future. But when it comes to other things in here in the city of Buffalo, the senator mentioned, $170 million coming in. It's $170 million is not coming to the city of Buffalo. It's across the entire state. When he talks about houses being demolished, I don't know if the senator was comfortable putting people in homes that were going to fall on their head. I wouldn't have been. So some of those demolitions, a lot of those demolitions had to take place. But now that we have the vacant lots with the city of Buffalo, we'll continue to work with those partners to build on them.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan, you have 30 seconds.
I'm proud of my housing record, but the idea that you're supporting the continued demolition of Buffalo neighborhoods. When I was doing West Side Buffalo development work, the best program we got was the city to stop demolishing houses. And every house that the city had the demo X on is now filled with a family. So the only housing policy the city of Buffalo has had for a generation is knocking down neighborhoods. And boy, we wish we had those houses now, because there's a demand is up. People would be buying those houses, sweat equity, kids would be buying those houses, but we ruined that opportunity by demolishing most of the east side of Buffalo.
I have to, no rebuttals for rebuttals. I do have to say, you were also mentioned in a positive way. So I don't know if you get 30 seconds. I guess if you want it, you can take 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Hey, there we go. I appreciate that. We'll move on. One final question on affordable housing, Justin.
Mr. Tyson Thompson, you have cited your own experience growing up in poor neighborhoods where safe housing options were limited. Enforcement of lead standards has been a significant issue for the city. Those efforts can be costly. How would you fully fund proactive rental inspection efforts while in a fiscal crisis? And what would you do to increase affordable housing options across the city?
Yeah, Buffalo is home to one of the worst childhood poverty rates in the country. And lead, paint, and poisoning is exacerbating those issues even further. Our children are our number one resources in the city, period. We have to make sure above anything we're protecting all people and all vulnerable populations, including our children. So we have to work very collaboratively and inclusively in our process to not only work with the city agencies, but also with the county, state, and federal government to make sure we address it. We still have lead plumbing pipes in our ground. We have them on our walls and our paint. We have to make sure the owners who are renting homes to people, that they're also following up the code, removing the lead paint and making sure that people are safe and not living in a home where houses aren't crumbling, lead paint is an issue, and kids are being poisoned.
Thank you, sir. We are now going to turn to our fifth topic of the night, quality of life issues in the city of Buffalo. And for that, I turn it back over to Taylor.
It's no secret that the city has some issues when it comes to quality of life for neighbors, with thousands of 311 calls about potholes alone, overgrown vacant lots, trash dumping, snow-covered streets, and more. And we're going to start with Mr. Whitfield. You posted a video walking the streets next to overgrown vacant lots, next to those potholes. What's your plan to improve our streets and neighborhoods?
Well, first of all, we're going to work with the communities where these conditions exist. We're going to communicate with them effectively. We're going to mobilize them. We're going to mobilize city resources to mitigate these issues. We're going to hold landowners, accountable for neglecting these properties. I think it's just a matter of making it a priority and caring. If you go to other parts of the city, you will not see this mess. I just got a video today where people from another community across town came to the east side and dumped a truckload of garbage. That is unacceptable. We have to do better, and that when I'm mayor, we will.
Thank you, Taylor.
Mr. Wyatt, every winter we inevitably see a storm that catches us by surprise, leading to delays in plowing streets, especially our side streets. As mayor, how will you streamline this and other processes to improve conditions for neighbors?
Having conversations with the community and beginning that process of doing something. It seems like we've kicked that can down the road. I don't know how many times we've come back with new plans, but that process still seems to evade us. How do we not be experts in snow removal? I don't know. I don't know, maybe we're in Pluto or something, but we should be better. And we've purchased new equipment. We've done all those things, but we're still not where we need to be. And so I'll be working with the Department of Public Works and addressing those issues hands-on. I'm not going to be going around getting photo ops, getting pictures. I need to be in the rooms with these commissioners, making sure that what the people have paid for, they get. Right now, they're not getting it. They're getting a whole lot of talk, but not action. And I'll be working with the Department of Public Works to make sure we have a better plan of removing snow. And I think it should be something sectionalized, not just something that you're coming from downtown to remove snow. Maybe we need to have plows in these communities so that, again, the plows can do better jobs of removing snow in those areas.
Thank you, sir. Taylor?
Mr. Scanlon, you've touted work filling more than 2,000 potholes in the city. Now, we saw the Brown administration do many a pothole blitz over the years, but the issues have continued. How will you make sure the problem areas like Main Street are addressed in the long term?
Yeah, well, we're now closer to 3,000. So we've gotten very creative. We pulled different crews in, used other contractors to make sure we're filling those holes, but those are temporary fixes, right? This year, we have the largest investment in the infrastructure plan. We're going to pave more than 200 streets. It's the largest investment in years. In addition to that, we passed the largest capital budget in the city's history. Major projects like Jefferson Avenue, Main Street, Bailey Avenue, projects that we were going to lose if we didn't get creative. We didn't have the money to front the work. We got very creative. We're able to borrow it in the capital budget. That money will all be reimbursed throughout those projects, so we don't have to take on long-term debt for them. But again, it's about prioritizing those and fixing the potholes at the short term, which we have, prioritizing paving during the long term on our side streets, but also our main thoroughfares as well through the capital and other projects and partnerships with the state and federal government and the funds that we get from them.
Thank you. Taylor?
Mr. Tyson Thompson, in your campaign messaging, you said Buffalo can't wait for the change we deserve. What's your plan to immediately address the quality of life issues our neighbors are facing?
First, speaking truth to people. I mean, just here we have 2 city council members, and everything they just said, I couldn't even understand, even with all these degrees that I have. You know, people want the basics fixed. You know, they say we've almost fixed 3,000 potholes. Drive down Main Street, I don't think anybody can really notice. we talk about snow removal, yet every year it's just piled and piled and piled. You know, people are getting to accidents, you know, because of it all. This is a lack of leadership and understanding of policy implementation that's at the root of it all. There's a big difference between policy design, making the law, enacting it, taking the photo op, and then everything happens right after that. We need leadership who actually knows how to put a policy into work to actually impact the system and making sure the communities have everything they need to have a thriving life in the city of Buffalo. So as mayor, I'll do exactly that. That's what I went to Harvard for. That's what I studied for. That's why I was a community organizer, to learn exactly how to take intractable issues and move the needle forward.
The 2 council members were referenced. Mr. Wyatt, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree with that totally. I know I've been the only council member that's spoken up numerous times as it relates to the quality of life in our neighborhoods. We got a new snow plan because I pushed that. I'm not the person to execute it, that's the administration, but I've pushed this new snow plan for our city because we were doing a snow plan in November. How does that make sense that we're doing a snow plan in November when we probably got snow in November? I probably can't get out. And so again, I've pushed the agenda, and again, I will work with each one of those department heads to make sure that we have improved services and not just getting photo ops everywhere. We need to put the work in.
Mr. Scanlon, you also have 30 seconds.
I think I would say disrespectful to the other council members to say they haven't advocated for quality of life in their districts. I think they do on a regular basis.
Snow plan.
But when it comes to, you said quality of life.
Snow plan.
But again, you didn't change the snow plan. You changed the date it was due.
Yeah.
When it comes to plowing, you can tell this past year it was better. And that's through the partnerships we've established with the county, with the state, to make sure that equipment is deployed. We do station equipment in advance of storms coming. We don't let it sit somewhere. We deploy it in advance. When it comes to Main Street was referenced in the condition of it. That's why we're completely overhauling Main Street this year, along with those other projects. Was on Jefferson Avenue this week, announcing $30 million in
All right.
as well.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have one final question on quality of life. Taylor?
Mr. Ryan, in one of the mailers you sent out, you promised to fill potholes, repair streets, plow streets, and more. How do you plan to pay for that work?
So my campaign is about the basics, right? And the basics that city people deserve for their taxes. They deserve to have the potholes fixed. They deserve to have their community centers in good repair. They deserve to have the pools open, and they deserve to have their streets plowed. We pay for that because we should prioritize that as a community. And right now, City Hall has not prioritized those services. And, we've got a childhood lead problem that we should be ashamed of. More kids in Buffalo are poisoned by lead each year than were poisoned in Flint, Michigan at the height of their water crisis. Buffalo congregations were sending bottles of water to Flint, but our kids are still being poisoned. The city didn't address the lead crisis when they were flush with money, and now they're not addressing it, when they're broke. But for me, quality of life includes living in safe, habitable homes and not being poisoned by lead.
How do you plan to pay for it?
So we're running a little bit long on time. So Bob, I'm going to have you, our final topic tonight is on the politics of the city of Buffalo. And Bob, if you can ask the question, and then we'll quickly just take the same question to all 5 candidates.
Well, Mr. Wyatt, we'll start with you. In the last mayoral election, Democratic primary voters favored India Walton, a self-described Democratic socialist who, as we know, was defeated decisively by write-in candidate Byron Brown in the general election. What do you think those elections taught us? Are we a city capable of embracing democratic socialism, or did the general election confirm Buffalo's traditional, fairly conservative democratic politics?
Well, I really think that it confirms that the system is still in play, that those folks who are supporting the acting mayor, who supported Byron Brown 2.0, are still in play as they talk about the minority candidates being amateurs, by there not being the majority. Those things are real. And I don't know if, let me say this. I believe we can change, but we have to be open to it. If we want the same old things that we've had, then we'll continue to do the same things we've done. And it won't help the east side, it won't help the west side, it won't help marginalized communities. So the politics of it are still there and very evident because of the 2 people who got the nominations. We weren't a part of it. It was an unfair process, and it's still unfair in our community.
Mr. Scanlon, you're up next.
Same question?
Yep.
Same question.
Yeah. Well, first, only one person got the nomination, one person through that process, and it wasn't me.
Acting mayor.
But I think it tells you that, Buffalo is a city of moderate Democrats, is what it is. But I think it's also incumbent on any of us in elected office to make sure that we're open to conversation with everyone, regardless of their school of thought. and make sure that we're sitting down and welcoming people to the table to have the conversations that we need to have. Regardless of political ideology, we have to make sure that we're representing people and then communicating with people in every corner of the city of Buffalo. So we will continue to look to communicate with people regardless of their political affiliation, their political ideology, and we'll make sure that we're having conversations to best benefit residents in every corner of the city of Buffalo.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tyson Thompson, same question.
Can you just repeat the question one more time for me, if you can?
Oh, we got to be fast.
Sorry.
The gist of the question was, did the India Walton election of a Democratic Socialist, was that really representative of Buffalo's Democratic politics? Or was the general election of a more moderate Byron Brown, does that best reflect what is seen as the traditional Democratic politics of this city?
Well, I think you do an unfair job of painting India Walton as some type of like extreme person who just has to like. I think what happened is that India Walton ran a campaign that beat at that point in time 16-year incumbent. I think that every politician has a shelf life. We all do, right? And eventually people get jaded. They get a little tired of the job. They're not always as energetic as they should be. I think in a lot of cases, India Walton had the right message at the right time. There was a lot of civil unrest at the time. There were a lot of things going right in her direction that kind of led her across the cross line in the primary. But I think that Buffalo politics are always changing. Any person has a shot. If you're able to make a message that resonates, that talks to the people what they need, it's ultimately going to benefit your campaign or whatever candidacy you want.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
I think the India Walton victory in the primary showed that Democratic voters were sick of the status quo and they wanted a change. And that's exactly what I'm hearing today when I'm going door to door in every neighborhood of the city of Buffalo. People are fed up. They don't understand why their city doesn't function. They're concerned with the level of cronyism and people's political campaign contributors getting contracts, other people being shut out of the city of Buffalo, friends and families being hired in City Hall, people being discharged for political reasons. What the people of the city of Buffalo want, they want a wholesale change. They want City Hall to serve the people of Buffalo, not the elected officials. We have a lot of work to do. I'm going to come in and be mayors with a fresh eyes and a fresh approach. We are going to modernize the city of Buffalo because we can all agree Buffalo deserves better.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Whitfield, 1 minute.
Testing with you. Yeah, first of all, you've heard a lot about better. At this particular time in the life of our community, better is a very low bar. Just pay attention to that. We're not talking about excellence. We're not talking about, greatness. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about better. That's the low bar. All right. Secondly, I take great umbrage with the way this campaign has been run, the way India Walton has been vilified, publicly dragged through the mud. It's unacceptable. It's childish behavior, and it's more the same. And you're talking about, to say that more of the same, this is more of the same. This is more of the same. If you want more of the same, this is what it is. Because this process was not fair, okay? You can't talk about him. Their finger was on the scale for you also. Everybody here has been appointed or have come up and had these things handed to them. And that's not fair. That is not democratic. It is not right. And let's not pretend like it's okay. Nobody can throw stones up here.
Okay.
This is ridiculous. And we've heard enough of it. I'm tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
We need real change.
Okay. We have to go to closing statements, so if everybody can address that.
I wasn't appointed to anything. The city charter made me acting mayor. The city
Okay.
guiding document.
We know how this
After
works.
being
We know how this works.
elected city council president.
Okay. All right. We want to thank everybody so much. We're going to go to closing statements. You have 1 minute each. We drew names, by the way, to figure out the order of this. Mr. Tyson Thompson, you have 1 minute.
My opponents up here are on stage talking about the status quo and how, we need time for change. Well, each of these people have had decades in this system. Each of these people are responsible for how the system is currently. And now they're trying to repackage themselves as a solution to this problem. A deficit, not just the $70 million, but it's a deficit across the city. Underperforming schools, food deserts, the list goes on and on and on. We could keep going down this same path of despair. the same path of hopelessness, or we could choose a new one with the right candidate who has not only the expertise, but the lived experiences and plan to move the city forward to Buffalo. I think that when you guys actually look at it, these guys, you don't even know who some of these guys were, but they've been in power for decades. It wasn't until they started spending hundreds of thousands of dollars coming around to canvas that you actually see them or know their name. Not until we're in your church pews. We have to make sure that we're electing officials who care about people, not for popularity or notoriety, because they want to get the work done.
Thank you,
and when you
sir.
come to that conclusion, you'll see you want to vote for Tyson Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next closing statement tonight comes from Mr. Scanlon.
Thank you. Commissioner Whitfield mentioned how ugly it has gotten a little bit in this campaign. Only one person on this stage has done that. The senator, I want to be very clear, has lied, continued to lie, and will continue to lie about me for the next 7 days. It's what you do when you don't have a track record to stand on, and you do and say anything you can to be elected mayor. My team, we've been all across the city of Buffalo spreading the message of what we've accomplished in 8 short months as mayor, what we'll continue to accomplish well into the future, working with the different partners that we have throughout the city of Buffalo. The fact that the lying and the hatred that's brought into this, it's something that's wrong with politics across the entire country. And, I think that it needs to exit the political realm here. And I encourage everyone to please come out. I've had 13 years in elected office, and I think it's been very successful, and I'm looking forward to representing people well into the future, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Whitfield, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Listen, it's been the honor of my life to spend the last 40 years working for you and to have your trust. I don't take that lightly. I'm doing this because I believe we need real change. I'm doing this because I believe I'm the best candidate. I'm the only candidate that has experience managing people, places, resources, budgets, and politicians. Okay? That's what I do. That's what I've done for 40 years. And so the notion that I don't have experience, and the notion that I'm part of the problem is certainly wrong. I'm asking for your vote. If you want real change, then you have to not do what you've always done. You have to do something different. I'm here. I'm ready to work. I'm going to fight for you every day like I always have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wyatt, you have 1 minute.
As a 3-time duly elected council member with over 25 years of financial experience, I'm wondering why I'm considered minor league. I don't think I'm minor league, I'm major league. And I think my stance as a council member consistently, not just when it's election time, consistently has been of integrity, honesty, and standing up for the people. And so at the end of the day, the folks who appear, when you talk about lying, you got your positions because of deceit and not honesty. And so if you want someone that's honest, if you want someone that cares, who's shown about caring, not somebody that just acted like they cared, I've shown that over my term as council member. So I'm definitely not part of the problem. I'm been proactive for the people. And at the end of the day, the people who are talking about they're ready to do this, I'm ready to hit the ground running the next day. In the first 100 days, you will see an impact that you've never seen in a long time in the city of Buffalo. Real change is coming to the city of Buffalo, and it's Rashid NC Wyatt for me.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ryan, 1 minute.
So let me tell you about myself. My dad was a Buffalo firefighter, and my mother was a public school teacher. As an attorney, I represented tenants facing illegal eviction and victims of housing discrimination. As a state senator, I helped pass the toughest gun laws in the country. I know how to get it done. I'm asking for your vote tonight because every neighborhood in the city of Buffalo deserves to have City Hall working for them. And far too long, that has not happened. I'm about the basics, fixing the streets, plowing the streets, building infill housing, controlling gun violence. We have a lot of work to do in the city of Buffalo. I'm endorsed by the Democratic Party. I'm supported by leaders like County Executive Mark Poloncarz and State Senator April Baskin, because they know by working together that we can get it done. If you agree that Buffalo deserves better, then vote for me.
Thank you, sir. That That is going to conclude our debate tonight. I want to thank each of you for your passion. Thank you for coming here tonight. Thank you to all of you in the audience here at the CAS for coming tonight. And thanks to all of you for watching. Remember, the election is 1 week from today. Early voting continues. Check with your Board of Elections for locations and times. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll join ABC programming after this quick break.